It's Shannon.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon Live.
It's
It's
Shannon.
crazy now because you don't know how it's going to turn out.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
My kids empowered me to get out.
What's going on with this remote learning and in the midst of COVID?
Working for different elected officials, learning and understanding how to put the community first.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon. We have a hot topic that we need to talk about tonight about taking my rights away from me as a woman. And our topic tonight is fighting for our rights. And we have invited on a special guest, Miss Marva C. Brown, attorney, a community leader. And she has been leading the force for us fighting for our rights for many, many years. And we want to just thank her for joining us tonight. Hello there, Miss Brown. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Before we jump right into fighting for our rights tonight for the abortion, we just want to take time to send out our sympathy for the families in Buffalo of the family members that got killed in the shooting. And we just want to say to the family that we are praying for you. You just hold on, things will get better. And hopefully one day, none of us have to be going through this. So just remember, you have our prayers. So let's get started with that fighting for our rights now, Miss Marva. Well, first thing I want to know is like, you know what? I'm just getting tired of people trying to take my rights away from me. You know what I'm saying? Because now it's coming down to your own individual body, and we can't even make a decision as to whether we want to have a child or not have a child, or if we want to have an operation or we want to eat some fruit. I don't know what's going on around here. Like the government is just trying to take over everything that we are doing. And enough is enough. I'm tired.
Right, and that's why people have been taking to the streets for the last week since this leaked decision came out from the Supreme Court. So, in the United States, since 1973, when Roe versus Wade was decided, it has been legal for women, birthing people, to have an abortion and have the right to have safe legal abortions in this country. So that's almost 15 years of having this right. And now the current Supreme Court, it's looking like they're saying that decision was wrong and they need to fix this flaw in the law in this nation. And so it is very disheartening.
Yes, yeah, it is very disheartening. But how does that still? How in what states can women be protected, even if this law becomes a actual law that's passed?
Well, I think the good thing is that there are several states in the country that will not outlaw abortion, the state of New York being one. The governor has come out and said it will always be legal in the state of New York to have an abortion. And if you need to come to our state to have an abortion, we'll make sure you have access to that medical procedure. I think that we're at about 50-50 in this country of states that will keep abortion legal, even if Roe versus Wade is overturned. So that's pretty good. The problem is it cuts access to people who live in states that are just waiting for Roe versus Wade to be overturned. They have trigger laws that as soon as the decision is overturned, their laws outlawing abortion will go into effect.
Wow.
But the thing about it is what I'm trying to understand is this was set in motion 50 years ago. So all of a sudden now, this Supreme Court justice that's on the bench now. I mean, who wakes up this morning to say, okay, we need to change this after 50 years? So one person on the justice can say to just come to the other one and say, look, we don't like how the law was set up, and we need to change it for everybody to say what they can't do and what they can do. I mean, I don't understand this. How you just come to this point after
Right.
50 years.
Well, I don't think that's accurate to say we've just come to this point. I think conservative states have been waiting and preparing for 50 years to challenge Roe versus Wade. There's constantly new laws that are coming on the books in certain states to outlaw abortion. And because of Roe versus Wade, they were outlawed. But this current Supreme Court, you have to think there's now a conservative majority on this current Supreme Court. And now that we have conservative justices, they're finding a way to overturn a law that's been in effect for 50 years.
But the scary thing about it is that normally women are not even aware that they're even pregnant to the 8th week. So how now do you decide that 6 week is your cutoff? And then what about the women that are raped or incest or unwanted child? What do we do with those women? Are they just stuck with a child? I mean, they just open up the floodgate for more suicides and more internal bleeding and therapeutic complications, because people are going to get abortions, whether it's legal or not.
Right. Before Roe versus Wade, women were having abortions, and whether it was self-inflicted, wire hangers, going to the back alley doctors without proper anesthetics, and then presenting in hospitals with infection and dying later from it, right? The abortions are going to happen. It's just going to make it more difficult. And the fact that the Supreme Court is now saying, let's let the states decide, the laws are going to be all over the place. Some are saying 6 weeks. Some are saying 15 weeks. Some are saying not at all. There's no rape exception or incest exception. Right. They're saying, we don't care about what this woman went through when she conceived. Conception is the start of life, and therefore no abortion in our states. And that really does a disservice and to the autonomy of a woman to say whether or not she wants to continue a pregnancy.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, Marva, is now they're talking also about, like, you can, if someone comes to you and wants you to go with them, to get an abortion or, help them, now they want to put criminal charges against you for, going to help somebody or whatever, or even put criminal charges against the woman. Like, I mean, I don't understand this nonsense. Like, they're not even thinking about what's going to happen, because just like you said, they still going to have the abortion, right? So you're not even taking in consideration that there are going to be more deaths besides the abortion part, because the women is going to still try to get the abortion, and then they might go somewhere, like you say, that they don't have the right medical attention. So you're not even thinking about all of that.
Right. So you brought up 2 points, right? Black maternal health in this country is terrible. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth in this country than any other demographic group. It doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, you're educated, you're Serena Williams. Doctors don't listen to Black women. We're not treated properly. And so we're already suffering in childbirth. We will suffer when abortions are outlawed as well. Then you brought up the criminalization of terminating pregnancies, right? Or assisting in the termination of a pregnancy. Who suffers from over-criminalization? Black, poor people of color, right? And so these laws are just going to create fear, fill up prisons, and cause devastation within poor Black communities, because more people will likely go to jail if they outlaw it in these states.
Absolutely. And my concern is that what happens when you go to other states? How now does your insurance carrier now authorize these procedures outside of the jurisdiction?
Right. I think it's a really good thing that the decision was leaked, because it has mobilized the community to take action. And part of what's going on in the streets, yes, we're having the protest, but people are also donating to Planned Parenthoods in states that share a border with the states that will outlaw abortion. And so, say for the state of Illinois, if you live in Illinois, or you live in Missouri, which shares a border with Illinois, you can drive across the border, go to Illinois, get an abortion. And so people are donating to Planned Parenthood in Illinois so that they can provide free or low-cost abortions to out-of-state people who are going to travel to terminate their pregnancies. And so I think that this leak is helping in a way, but it just shouldn't happen.
But that may serve some checkpoints for people transiting from
that's what right. They're going to be stopping people wanting to know, because the traffic is going to get heavy. So it's going to be noticeable. There's a lot of traffic going into the next state. So now they're going to be checking you, or either trying to say you did something that you didn't do. You know what I'm saying? Speeding, or you did this, or checking to see if you have something. It's just going to get out of hand. It's just going to be a mess.
It's just another way to criminalize poor Black people, poor people of
Absolutely.
color. Yes, I agree.
And see the leak. I don't understand the leak anyway, because how did it get leaked? Because they have to know how it was leaked. I don't understand.
Well, I'm sure there will be consequences for whoever in the Supreme Court staff leaked the decision. I don't believe they released the name of the person who is the source of the leak, but I'm sure they're investigating.
Well, if lucky for them, they won't be found because you put a leak out there, you want to keep it as is. You just know it just came from the source from somewhere, but I wouldn't admit it.
Right.
Well, who's going to admit that they leaked something?
Well, I mean, it's unconstitutional. I
No,
mean,
but I'm just saying, no one is going to admit that they leaked something, because you know what? It might not even been a staff person. It could have been one of the justices.
judges.
Somebody. You don't
That's
know.
my thought at first.
See, because we would never think one of the justices would do something like that. But who
Right.
knows?
And
It
they
could be
wouldn't
one of
suffer a
them that's not
consequence.
agreeing with what's going on, because why is this man, Samuel Alito, I think that's what his name is. Now he the one who's writing up the proposal and everything. Why are you writing up the proposal? What do you know about abortion?
What do you know about pregnancy?
Well, that's the first thing.
Well, and that's what the whole bans off our bodies is about. Why is it the old white men that are deciding these things, right?
Exactly.
That's who's writing this decision. And I mean, I will say it's a proposed decision. There's a lot of deliberation that goes into a final decision from the court, and that's not expected till June or July. But we see what the majority is thinking. And so this is, again, letting us prepare. It's allowing us to mobilize and really prepare for elections, right? We have to vote and make sure in these states where they might have laws on the books or being ready to outlaw abortion, maybe we can turn some elections now and say, all right, we don't want these legislatures in office anymore, and change the legislation so that these laws can be prevented.
Well, that's a tricky question too, because what some of these politicians out there advocating for these positions, these seats, they say one thing, and then once they get in office, it's something
Exactly.
different.
Exactly. That's always the case.
Yes.
Is the campaign is one thing. I'm going to buy you 10,000 shirts when I get in or whatever, and then when they get in there, you don't even get one shirt. So please.
That sounds very specific.
You know what I'm saying? What just really disturbs me is like when the people come up with these ideas and stuff, like, why are you even talking about a woman's body? We'll talk about the body when we come back from the break, okay? So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
This one's for the real ballers and shot callers, the sisterhood of women in tech. They're discovering cures, building apps, and programming the blockchain. They're CEOs, worldwide hustlers who can make it rain. They're tearing down the old boys club and seeing big gains. Because when women in tech come together, you know they make that change.
Hi, welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are talking about fighting for our rights with our special guest, Ms. Marva C. Brown. So I was getting ready to say, like, I'm just so tired of these men deciding what we should do with our bodies. I mean, even sometimes, just forget about the justice people, even sometimes like your boyfriend or your husband trying to tell you about how your body should look or what you should look like or whatever. Like, with the justice people, like, how many other things do we need laws to put in place? Why don't you go and do something about these guns and stop all this killing with people losing their lives and family? That's what you need to be concentrating on. When did abortion become such big thing that you worried about some rights of people, of women having abortion? I don't get it. I'm just like,
right. I think you're making up a good point about the trauma of forced pregnancy, right? A woman should be able to decide when and where and how she starts her family. And so there's a lot of times where women, they may become pregnant while they're still in school, and having that abortion allows them to complete their education, get the job that they need to support their families, and become economically independent. Or a woman has multiple children already and just knows that she can't handle another one. Why should a man get to decide and say, okay, you need to keep on having those babies and be barefoot and pregnant without opportunity for yourself, right? So we have to make sure that we're empowering women and giving them the opportunity to make the decisions that's best for their life and their family.
Well,
And not on that, Marva too, is like, I mean, these are real cases. I'm telling you what I've seen and what I know. I'm talking about what nobody told me. Like, even in cases when women have children that they didn't want, they abuse them children afterwards, because the child reminds them of the man that they was with or whatever, and they abuse these children. So why would you want children brought in the world that's not wanted? Children should be brought in the world because you want those children. You plan to have those children. Like sometimes, the younger people get pregnant. They say, oh, it was an accident. Yeah, okay, it was an accident. But then you're going to keep the baby and you like the baby and everything and stuff like that. But if you really do not want that child, then this is child abuse comes in with that also. Because I have seen that happen.
It's very unfortunate,
yes,
right? To be forced to give birth when you're not ready, when you don't understand and know what it is to be a mother. I always say to my young clients, I was 33 when my first child was born, graduated law school, traveled the world. But having a child is a job that you just don't understand, and you're not prepared for it until you actually have that baby. And so it is extremely difficult. And I think that we have to make sure that we're protecting the people that are here. A lot of the laws are talking about the life of the mother, then you can have an abortion. But what about the mental health and well-being of the mother? Is that included? And that's something that, these states can legislate against. Like, so what if you're going to be depressed and beating that child? Or you can't feed that child, you can't educate that child, you can't clothe that child. It doesn't matter, right? We have to think of the quality of life of these babies that, are going to be forced to be born.
Yeah, but just to add to that, we already have an issue today of them lack of treatment and addressing mental illness. So now you add another traumatic stress event on women. But to go back to your story, when you say women was having kids be put in pregnant, so they was told to do, and that was it. But today, women are more or less, they're having families later, they start in life later on. So I'm really wondering, who is this law really for? Right. I know it's outside of population control.
Right.
I think the conservative politicians are very vocal about the fact that the white population is going down, that immigrant population is going up, Black population is going up. And so banning abortions will also mean that there will be more white babies born. And that's what they want. And this is what the legislation will do. It'll force more white women to have babies.
Hopefully, that's the thought.
That's part of their goal. Yes.
But go ahead, Vanessa.
I guess is one of the challenges they have it too, is that you're having more people of color get into these legislative positions in these offices and having a say at the table, which wasn't always in the fabric of the United States. Everybody was in the back burner being told to not do as I say. So they have not been at the table to make these decisions. So that's another thing that's interesting, that they're also looking at it as on a political aspect of it.
Yeah. Right. I mean, as our country becomes more diverse, people get more educated, they start to take part in the political process, right? The legislation becomes more diverse and understanding of what the needs of the general and greater population is. Yes. And that diversity is so important. And that's why when we're thinking of, this is not just about abortion, this is about civil rights. Right. Yes, the woman's right to choose. But this might lead to legislation about who you can marry, who can employ you, who you can make contracts with, where you can send your children to school. These are decisions that are not enumerated in the Constitution, but these are rights that have been protected under the 14th Amendment in this country. And so now if the Supreme Court, the conservative Supreme Court, is saying, we're just going to give these decisions back to the states that are controlled by conservative white legislatures are probably going to legislate against the Black, poor, immigrant communities.
But that's what I was saying originally about them taking us over. It's almost like they're just taking you over as a human being, because so now if you think that you can tell women about they can't have an abortion, about their bodies and stuff like that. So, I mean, they already started with the voting rights, trying to take our voting rights away from us. And this is why I get so upset when people won't go to the polls and vote, because they act like they don't understand the importance of going to the poll and vote. And I want them to stop saying about, well, what am I voting for? Because they're not going to do anything for us anyway. That's not the point. We can't even keep our rights now under the law. You see what's happening with the abortion. So just like you just said, Marv, like what is going to happen down the road that they'll be telling you something else that you can't do. So that means all the laws that's put in place, now they have the opportunity to go and overturn these laws.
Right. And I think it's about encouraging people to take part in the political process, right? You might vote, but then hold that person that you elected accountable. Make them do what you need to do. It doesn't stop at the polls. You can go to lobby days, you can write letters, sign petitions, and let your legislature know what you want to happen. Or if you're not happy with the legislature, run. There's so many campaigns out there that are getting Black, women, LGBTQ people in positions of power and elected in our government so that they can represent the people who have not been represented all along.
And
so
see, that's the problem. That's the problem, Marva, what you said about writing letters, coming out to meet. You can't even get them to write a letter about if the garbage is not picked up on time or the garbage man don't come. You will say to your neighbor, okay, we all go write letters. No one is writing the letter. They standing behind the door talking about the garbage truck didn't come. This is the problem. People need to do what needs to be done.
Well, you know what? Sometimes people don't realize if it's not affecting them directly, overall community at large is affecting them. They don't have an interest. What mobilized people and engage them to get to the polls when something they feel overall is going to benefit them personally. But it's not about them personally. It's about the community at large.
But that's the only time they'll move is when something happened to them personally. Exactly. Then they want you to come and help them.
But waiting until it affects you might be too late, right?
Exactly.
If you don't take the vote now, if you don't take power now, it might be too late for you to do something after the laws have been changed and put into place, right? So I think it affects all of us, and we have to have foresight, right? We have to know where we've been and where we're going so that we can prepare for the future of these laws. And again, that's the value of this leak. We can mobilize and get active and make ourselves and our communities aware of what's going on and come up with a plan.
Well, I think that came about today when they started the redistricting here in New York, right? When they're trying to put more seats, more conservative Republican seats to be overturned by putting the opponents against each other, correct? So when they do things like that, then they're able to bring these laws back on the table in these states that have not opted in and try to overturn them in that sense. In that way,
Right. New York State redistricting. We were supposed to have election June 28th, and now it's been pushed back because they're still working on the map. And hopefully, people advocate for the original maps because the one has been suggested just today is not fair to our downstate community, and it's going to make us lose votes not only in the federal legislature but state legislature as well.
I think it's everybody's due diligence in a community, faith-based, where people congregate to bring these issues to the table for people to understand. When you give an 8 minute, 10 minute, 30 seconds on the news, people don't really understand what that looks like. And by the time we get the news, it's already been decided, it's already been tabled, it's already been somewhere along the spectrum beyond our control. So really to go revert back to day one to see what was the situation, what was the voting, what was the issues. I think everyone should do a due diligence in the community where they have people that congregate, to educate them on things that's happening within the community.
You know what, Dr. Vanessa, let me say, we say that same thing over and over and over again about people need to be educated and not know what's going on. If people want to be educated to what's going on, they'll get educated to what's going on. How long have we been talking about this?
No, I'm
every
talking
time
about
an incident happens.
No, but
every
I'm
time
talking about
something happens.
Yes, I understand
the exact same thing.
But I'm saying that differently. I'm saying that where people congregate, they have the ability to be taught in that space. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. It's the same thing when you have a community school board meeting. You go to the community school board meeting, they tell you a lot of stuff that goes on in the community. But if you won't take the time for one time out of the month, once a month, to go to community school board meeting, then how are you going to find out anything? Now, we're going to have to go because I'm getting excited and I'm getting mad, and I don't want to get excited and mad on the show. Enough is enough. We've had enough of it. We repeat the same thing over and over, and we know that, and you know that as well. So, look, we know what we're supposed to get done. You see what's happening. We get out there. We're going to fight. If we have to march around these justices' houses like Moses did with the people out there, that's what we're going to do. Everybody just walk around their houses for the 40 days. They'll get tired and make a decision. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight. And as always, we'll see you next time. Look, we used to do the after show, but I know Miss Marva has to go, so we're not going to do the after show today. But anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you, Marva, for coming, and hopefully you'll come back again because this is going to be a long journey and a long fight. And
thank you for having me.
We're going to come back to talk about our other fights as well. So thank you again for coming on tonight, and thank you for joining us. And as always, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies.
Do you like beautiful pictures for your home or your office? Then stop by Stage Watch Gallery. They have a large selection of pictures from around the world.
It's Shannon.